This is Speak Earth. I'm Case Bradford. Thank you for tuning in to this episode with Leah, Hester. This is the second episode we have co-created together. The first was 3 years ago, and since then, Leah has continued creating awesome things. We discussed some of those things like Surf and Shanti, her yoga and surf retreat for women, and Aura, her natural fiber apparel brand, which is launching later this summer. We also discuss the power of commitment, clarity, and authenticity, including love, both self-love and within a relationship. We also speak about the ways in which women are attacked, how to create your dream life, and much more. I really enjoyed connecting with Leah and having this conversation. I hope you enjoy listening. This episode is brought to you by intuition. Intuition is within all of us, and sometimes we need to access healing forces of nature in order to raise our vitality and access that intuition. And you can use the coupon code within us to save 100% on your intuition. There is not a link down below, but there is guidance within you. There will be links down below for everything we talk about in this episode, Surf and Shanti, Aura, and the previous episode we made 3 years ago. Without any more rambling from me, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy this episode with Leah. Hester, how are you?
Casey, I'm great. Living the life. How are you?
Doing awesome. I've been here in Nosara, Costa Rica, where you've been for 2 years, and I've been here 5 months, and I really love this place so much. It's such a powerful place to be.
It is a powerful place. They say that 2 things. 1, bad roads lead you to good people. And it's so true. And 2, that if Nosara isn't meant for you, she will kick you out. I like to think of her as feminine. I think out of all of the places in Costa Rica I've been to, Nosara is definitely the most feminine energy. The other areas definitely have a more masculine energy, and she will kick you out. So she loves you. She's embraced you and your arrival.
She's given me so much. When I was here in May, I was able to find clarity within a long-term relationship at that time, and we both decided to end that with friendship and with love. We both knew that it was best for both of us to go our separate ways, and then in the past month, I'm able to find new love, and there's been an enormous amount of clarity and creativity that has come through here that I have not been able to find elsewhere. This is a really magic place.
That's so beautiful. Wow. Yeah. The clarity, it's because in the jungle everywhere, specifically I feel in smaller towns, there's less noise and less stimulus other than nature. And with that comes silence, and with silence comes answers and clarity. So that might be a part of the reason why that has come through for you.
I believe that 100%. It feels like what I've come to believe about health and vitality is that as we're able to increase our vitality, we're able to access higher levels of clarity as one of the benefits, creativity being another one, energy, immunity are sort of obvious ones that people realize, but I had no idea how much more clarity and creativity I could access when I was paying attention to increasing my health more.
Yeah, it's true. And I feel also when you don't force increasing health and you just live the lifestyle that enhances vitality naturally, to me, that's always when I've felt the most vital and healthy, is when I'm surfing the most, detoxing often with the sauna, sweating in the sunshine, laying out in the sun, and going on walks, getting my groceries from the farmer's market. It can be simple, and you're not forcing anything, so everything flows, and I feel that is also very abundant here.
I agree. It seems to be just part of the lifestyle here instead of something you really have to struggle for in the United States. In the last, we made a podcast episode 2 years ago.
Yeah, we did.
And that was before you had moved here.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how has your life changed in where you were before you were here and now 2 years after living here for so long?
Oh, that's a beautiful question, and I've done so much self-reflecting on the last few years because my life has changed drastically in such amazing ways. Since we last spoke, I have manifested my dreams and created my dreams to be my reality. Before we had our first podcast, I actually had lived in Costa Rica for 3 months and then went back to the States. And I was in this space of wanting, building, creating, desiring my life to come back here in a more grounded, secure, intentional way. And that's exactly what has ended up happening. Is I grounded in the States a little bit. I was with family. I healed some health things going on, or started to at least, that ended up healing fully a few months into living in Costa Rica. And I got here, and which was a part of my dream and manifestation, so that was a huge life change and transition for sure. I sold a lot of my things in the States, so I didn't own much at all. I sold my car, I sold a lot of clothes and some belongings, and just came here with my surfboards. And after a week of being here, I also found love and fell in love. I definitely wasn't looking, but it came to me at such a beautiful time in my life. And, I opened it and welcomed it in, as we do. And aside from that, I've also been creating and have created my dream businesses. There have, of course, been challenges, and there always will be challenges in business, and those are ours to work through and overcome and learn from and alchemize. However, that has been a huge life change as well, of just feeling stable and abundant economically for the first time in my life, and getting out of that fight or flight mindset around money that was rooted within me since a little girl. So that's felt really good and liberating, and just confidence and resilience because I have been able to do what I set my mind to are big themes in my life. Yeah.
Beautiful. When you think about and reflect on the first thing you mentioned there, finding love, how has that changed the way you feel day to day and the experience that you have going through life?
Relationships are so trippy. Relationships are portals. Like, man, they are mirrors. They reflect back everything to you. I am a firm believer, 100%, 100%, that we discover and uncover the most about ourselves through relationships. Whether those can be platonic friend relationships for sure, but romantic relationships really reveal, if you are open enough to see it and inquisitive enough and you care to grow and evolve spiritually and emotionally and physically as a being, you will find answers about yourself through your lover. And yeah, this love for me has been really deep and really powerful, and definitely the first in my life that's been as serious in my adult life. The rest were, I would say, more so puppy love, which is so beautiful, but they were, high school, college, shortly post-college. And this is the first that I really feel, wow. So it's been really beautiful to be navigating a new country and all of the hurdles and bridges that come with that, while also navigating a new love with a man who comes from a different country, a different background than I. So it's been really beautiful. It's been a ride.
It's really well said, and resonates with me as well. Every time I felt that deep sense of connection with someone and felt that emotion that we're all sort of here for, and we're all kind of seeking it all the time, and that has always also been the most powerful teacher in my life. And some of the biggest lessons that I've learned, and I'm curious to hear yours, one of them being the importance of self-love in that context, and how we can only love someone to the extent that we love ourselves. And that was really one of the biggest lessons that I've come to, and it really takes sort of 3 relationships within each relationship because
Yeah.
there's such an interesting interplay.
There is. Yeah, I really believe that the depth of the love and the depth of the clarity that we feel in the love comes from the amount of love we have for ourselves and the amount of clarity we have for our own lives. And wow, I could really go deep within this, but starting with the first one, loving ourselves. When we set standards for ourselves, so if we're taking that really down to the physical 3D being, right? Like they're our flesh, skin, and bones. When we feed ourselves well, when we breathe every day, when we set aside time for our meditation, whatever that looks like, it could be, lifting, surfing, walking, doing the dishes, whatever, taking a shower, or sitting cross-legged like we are and closing your eyes and connecting to God. When we take those time out of our day to do all of that for ourselves and we really nurture ourselves, we're going to have higher expectations for our lover, for our partner. And that self-discipline, all those things I just mentioned, is self-love. It is the same thing, because when you love yourself, you believe that you are worthy and deserving of the things that you are doing to, provide for your being. Not just physically, though, mentally, emotionally. Like, we want to take care of ourselves so that every day we can live the most full life. And I could sit here and say that I take care of myself so that I could live to 100. And yes, while that may be true, if you bring it back to the present moment, like, no, the real reason I do it is because it makes me feel good. And when I feel good, I'm a better and clearer channel vessel for God. I am a better lover to my man. I am a better friend to my friends. I show up better for my girls that I host retreats for. And it's not about being perfect. Screw that. It's about being you in the moment, being the best that you can be, and also loving yourself exactly where you are. And if there's something that you want to gain and grow towards, you can work towards that, but also loving where you are in the moment and being where your feet are. So yeah, the more we love ourselves, the deeper we're going to go in our romantic relationship. And I believe that the more clarity we have about the life that we desire to create for ourselves and live, the more clarity and commitment we can give to our partner or our lover, boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband.
It's really well said. It brings to me this concept of authenticity, which sort of maybe stems from love in some ways, where if you're able to love yourself in all the ways that you mentioned, being healthy, not because you're forcing it and you're struggling, but because you love yourself and you're giving yourself these gifts of movement and spiritual practice and nourishment, then you're able to access this like clarity and authenticity that isn't really accessible otherwise.
Exactly. If we are so full of noise in the mind and anxieties and junk food, where is there room for God to come in? We're too full. We're too distracted. And that goes for everything. It's being able to recognize the signs and the synchronicities, and that only really happens, I feel, when we are clear. And like you said, you found love in such a beautiful way with so much clarity, and that was probably because you were in a time of your life where you felt open and like a clear channel, and so you were able to recognize and feel that heart coherence, literally.
It's true, and I've experienced the opposite of that as well. I went through many years of not loving the man in the mirror and really having a lot of self-hatred, and I didn't attract anyone during that time. It's very clear to me that the self-love, as goofy as that could sound to someone who's listening, who's like maybe far from that, and has yet to really embrace it or play with what that feels like and how that manifests day to day within oneself, because I think it's different for everyone how that happens, but it really is sort of the foundation of everything else.
It is. And I feel, and maybe some of you watching can resonate with this or feel it to be true in your life, or that you are calling in more of it, because one day I was on my way home from a photo shoot and I got home And I was in my luteal phase. I didn't want to be at that photo shoot. I was feeling tired and like I didn't have energy to show up with in that moment. And it went for so much longer than I had anticipated or was getting compensated for. And I remember in that moment, I said, Leah, just love, Ram Dass it. Like, really just love. You committed to this. Love yourself. You're going to love these photos. You're going to give this brand everything, their whole vision. Everything's going to deliver and come back to love. And then I got home after a 30-minute crazy motorcycle ride through the jungle. And I took a deep breath and I made a reel. And the reel, I told everyone, I said, you want to change your life? Love yourself. And it went super viral. It went so viral. It was the messiest reel. I did it in 1 or 2 takes. And I was Dharma talking, yapping to the camera for like 35 seconds about loving yourself. And don't speak negatively to your own being. And our bodies hear that. And it went like, yeah, very viral. And I believe that's because so many people are not loving themselves. And it takes a while to get there. And I catch myself some days not loving myself. But it's like a muscle that we train, just like intuition. Like, hey, don't say that. You can do it. Look at yourself in the mirror and be like, you're gorgeous. Like, you got this. You're a diva.
It reminds me of Ram Dass quote, don't do it like it's a great, you can do it like it's a great burden on you, or you can do it as if it's all part of the dance, something along those lines, where we're able to take a step back and, like you did, which comes from great practice, meditation practice, yoga, surfing, whatever it is, a lot of intentionality to be able to be meta-aware of the ruminations in your mind and pull out of that and snap into a different gear. Not everyone is capable of that or has practice to the point of being aware enough to develop that skill set. I think that's a highly developed cognitive faculty, but anyone can train to get to that level.
Totally. And that reminds me of another thing I heard recently or saw somewhere, and that is it takes one pattern disruption to break a negative loop. Like, if you catch yourself in a negative spiral of, my day started out horribly, my coffee tastes bad, I'm so busy, I have so many things to do, something's not going right at work, I feel creatively heavy or dense or burdened. It takes one pattern disruption of looking at a palm tree or a bird or a butterfly or another human being like, that is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Or look at my body with my 2 legs and my working arms and my beating heart and my nose that is breathing to keep me alive. And that one little pattern disruption, it can break the cycle. And then you feed off of the positive loop instead of spiral down the negative one.
And having a healthy, well-nourished, electrically charged body from walking barefoot and from being in the sun, from eating, gives you a better flexibility to be able to pivot in that way. I think a lot of people who aren't already having these holistic health habits established really struggle a lot more with, because I remember when I was like that, it was a lot more difficult to sort of just get my mind pointed towards that direction of positive vibration. And there are little things like 7 deep breaths can get you, and I say gratitude, like you just mentioned, being grateful for the fact that you have a working body and that you have the opportunities that you have and that there's nature around you that you can enjoy, or just going for a walk, like leaving your phone behind, going for a walk and enjoying walking for the sake of walking, not necessarily counting your steps, but having these like little pattern interruptions, like you said, little moments of bliss that you can cultivate and carry with you throughout the day are such treasures.
Yeah, totally. And I believe it's okay to also hit yourself with a little bit of dopamine when you do find yourself in that negative spiral. And that can be dopamine that you work towards, obviously, like go to the gym and, lift something heavy, do some yoga. That would be the first place I would go to is my yoga mat. However, if you're really having a bad day and you're out and about, like, go get yourself your favorite drink. Go get a chai, go get a coffee, go get a matcha. It's okay. Go get a sparkling water, whatever floats your boat, a kombucha. Because that little act of doing that for yourself and pausing in your day and wanting to turn it around with something external can then trigger the internal to be like, okay, yeah, I'm grateful for this moment with my matcha, with my kombucha. And that in itself can be a beautiful thing. And I think these days people are too hard on themselves and too structured to where they won't also just break the pattern and go do that little self-love act for them. Like, go get a massage if you have the means to do so, you know, things like that.
Treat yourself.
Treat yourself, exactly. Like, this life is meant to be enjoyed and not be so serious.
That's a great reminder. And it's true that a lot of people are stuck in sort of this protocol brain where everything has to be super specific. And maybe that's because they went through a really serious health challenge, like an autoimmune disease or something in that way, where they had to be super regimented, and then they're sort of stuck in that mindset. But out of curiosity, what does your day-to-day look like in terms of how you structure your life to make sure you are checking the boxes or covering the bases, so to speak?
Yeah, I love this question, and I have reflected on this a lot because for me, I am not the most routined girl. I'm not the most routined woman. For me, what really works is waking up, checking in with myself, seeing how I'm feeling, and then kind of making a rough plan in my day from there. You know, if I'm being completely honest, I check the surf. If the surf's going to be better in the morning, I'm going to go surf in the morning and leave my evening free for work. And I'm so blessed that I work for myself and am able to have that freedom, that consistent freedom and choice of when to show up in certain areas of my life. I would say I'm very type B. So that is what really works for me, is waking up, tuning in with myself through silence. You know, I'll go into the bathroom and do my facial things and all the things. Go into the kitchen, make some warm water, lemon, Shilajit, whatever I'm feeling. That's another thing I cycle, is like supplements I'm taking. It's all intuitive because one of my yogic mentors, he said, and there's a Sanskrit word for this, and I'm forgetting in this moment the Sanskrit word. But when we create such discipline and routine, and we're so used to it, we rely on it for our well-being, and we rely on it for our comfort and sanity, whatever, productivity, when we deviate from that routine, that's also, and then we get anxious or we get overwhelmed. We're creating too much pressure on this routine, and we step out of flow. And I am like so huge on flow. It is what, things are always more easeful in my life when I'm in complete flow. So I wake up and I see how I'm feeling. I love to connect to God every day, and maybe that doesn't always look like praying on my knees or sitting in lotus and meditation, but I always make it a point to talk to God. Lately, that's been in the ocean, and I'm actually was about to make a reel on this, because if you are doing something throughout your day, whatever it may be doing, and you didn't necessarily grow up religious, praying on your knees, I didn't. I wasn't raised to pray to God necessarily. We can associate one thing we do throughout the day that's pretty consistent. For me, I surf almost every day, so every time I'm in the ocean, I talk to God, because I feel the most connected and I feel the most open and aligned there. So I'm like literally in my head, hey God, what's up? I am going through this right now. If you could show me a sign, that would be really cool. When you show me signs and I listen to them and I follow them, I believe I'm a better channel for everyone around me and can spread more light. So please, let's work together and like use me as your channel. And so those are just the few things that I really do in my routine. And then of course I'll leave computer time for, you know, however many hours throughout the day. Some days my work looks more like content creation and I can just do that from my phone. Some days I need to do a lot of admin, back-end website things like that. So I'll carve out some time at the cafe, but I always like to make it enjoyable. I think, and my boyfriend is a great person who reminds me of this a lot, but if you're gonna start a business and get into something and it drains your life force energy and you're always stressed out about it, what's the point? What's the point? You have to not take it so seriously and make it enjoyable and make it fun for yourself so that it's sustainable for your well-being.
So many great points there. What you said about connecting with God in the ocean really resonates with me. I feel so much more connected with God when I'm in nature, especially when I'm in wild water.
Yeah.
Ocean being the most potent form of that. I feel like water, especially in the wild, is God consciousness in its most dense form, and I just like to move it around with my hands and swim around underwater. I feel like I'm giving God a big hug when I'm in the water and He's hugging me back. And I was also not raised with formal religion, and it always kind of confused me that people go into a church to connect with God when I always felt so much more connected in nature. And I'd love to hear a little more about the flow that you speak of, because you said it's very important to you to be in that flow and connecting with it. What does that mean to you?
I believe that when I am in flow and can have the time freedom to say yes or no to certain opportunities or invites or moments of life, that is when there are the most synchronicities. That is when there are the most signs from God. That is when there is the most abundance. For example, if there's something that I had scheduled to do and I kind of committed to, but I, in that moment, really don't want to go because I know that it will be perhaps detrimental to my well-being or my flow, I have really learned and stepped into being able to say, like, hey, no, I apologize for the cancellation, but let's reschedule. I'll be able to be more present the next time. Or saying yes. The reason I love flow so much is because I might have a girlfriend text me like, hey, I'm driving 30 minutes north to go surf. Do you want to come? And if I would have made a whole schedule last week that I had to stick to in order to get things done, I would have had to say no when I wanted to go. And if I wanted to go and I felt that pull, that's also listening to God and listening to my desires. Obviously, it sounds more fun to surf than sit behind my computer and work. However, there is that line of like, I know what I have to do and when I have to do it by, and I will get it done. I trust myself enough and my self-discipline to know that I'll get everything done that I need to get done before it needs to get done. And yeah, I do really well with just being able to keep my schedule open and being able to flow throughout the day. So are there a few things that feel non-negotiable for me if I am in the place that is my home and I have all my things? For sure. I love to get on my mat every day, whether I go take a yoga class or it's my home practice. Like I said, I love to talk to God in whatever capacity that looks like. And I love to carve out time to have at least one meal with my lover, with my man, cook myself food. So yeah, there are things that I will definitely stick to if I'm in my home atmosphere and my flow. But there are certain things that I just don't like to plan. I don't even really keep a calendar. I put on like, tax appointment or like podcast with Casey. But I won't put like every hour of the day, yoga, breakfast, work at cafe, because I don't know. And also with women, we're cyclical beings. Every week for me is different. I'm not scheduling anything when I know I'm going to get my period. My luteal phase, I'm still scheduling a little less. When I'm in my follicular phase and I'm ovulating, yes to everything, So there's a way to flow with our cyclical being as women and men too. It's just a different 24-hour cycle as opposed to a 30-day or 28-day with the moon. So flowing with that also really helps and has helped me dramatically in especially business, but also just my life and how hard I push in my workouts and nutritionally how much I eat. I eat probably more than you when I'm in my luteal phase. but when I'm menstruating, like, I'm eating a little bit less. So yeah.
Beautiful. That was a great description. And what came to mind for me was the power of presence. How when you're able to be here and now not distracted by all these things that you think are important in the future or ruminating about the past, but when you're here and now, sort of what is most important comes to the mind and makes itself known, and you're able to follow almost this trail of breadcrumbs that God is leaving for you. And synchronicity I believe is a great word for that. You're able to see the signs and the signals and follow that with more energy and clarity than when you're forcing yourself to stick to some rigid schedule that you wrote last week or last month. Yeah.
Totally, because last week I was a different woman. For real. We grow and evolve so much, and again, living cyclically, last week I was definitely a different woman. And I want to add for all of those people listening that it is a very privileged form of structure that I know I just spoke about in regards to flowing with life. You know, I'm healthy, I have no children yet, so I'm able to do that. And so that is where I'm at currently in my life right now. So maybe when I do have 2 kids and I need to be a little more structured because I have to pick them up from school at 3, or, you know, homeschool them from 12 to 4:30, whatever that may look like, then there will be more structure in my life, I'm sure. And that will also be beautiful, and I'll learn how to embrace that and flow with that. So life is seasonal for sure, and cyclical as well. But in this moment in my life, freedom is a huge priority of mine, and it's a huge theme that I have created and been working hard for. So that's what I'm really leaning into and enjoying so much right now.
I imagine you also worked very hard and took risks in order to be in the position that you're in today, unless you have a trust fund, which I don't believe that you
Not
do.
a trust fund baby. Despite the Instagram allegations, no trust funds.
So you put in, you have to risk it to make any sort of prize in life. There's always risk involved.
For the biscuit.
Always, yes. So it's you know, it also goes without saying that you put in anyone can do or engage with life in the way that you have to make their way towards the life that you're living. They may or may not get there depending on how blessed they are or how much energy they put into it and how much they're willing to face risk with courage. But it's a lifestyle that's available for just about everyone who's listening and watching this.
Absolutely. You're so right. And I get a lot of messages about that in my DMs from both men and women saying, how did you start? How did you create this life? I came to Costa Rica with $500 to my name the first time I moved here. Actually, after I bought my flight, $300 to my name. I was 23. I had no man, no car, a job that was based on trade, so I was just not really making cash flow, but only getting housing, which is huge in exchange for my work. And if I'm gonna be completely honest, which I'm gonna be completely honest, I read those messages and I don't respond. And you want to know why? Because I don't know how to answer. Like, to answer that, it would be a 3-hour conversation. I cannot simply answer that because there's not one thing that has led me to this lifestyle. And I feel like it's kind of a douchey answer for me to just say I bought a flight and trusted God. I don't want to answer with that, but that is the truth. So if you have messaged me with that type of question, or if you are curious, that is literally all I came here with. And I built my life once I arrived here. And I vision boarded, you know, and there was manifestation involved, of course. But for the most part, there was not one action that I took to just create this life. It's been, honestly, since my childhood. I grew up going to summer camp with all girls. That led into me hosting women's retreats and falling in love with surfing and studying yoga and teaching in studios. It all just were ingredients to one recipe that ended up creating the most delicious pie and dessert. Or meal, whatever you want to refer it to. But it did. And so I could give it practical advice and be like, look, you know, save up a little bit of money, but you don't need as much as you think. Get a flight and go explore the world. And when you feel like you're in a place that calls to you the most, like, you'll know. You're going to feel it. It's all feeling, and that's why nobody can give you the blueprint on how to live their exact specific life, because everyone is so unique, everyone is so different, everyone has had a different background and perceives the world differently. So we can only really co-create that with God and ourselves. And of course, you can have mentors and things along the way and ask people for advice, but I really believe that if you have a calling, you just need to go for it.
I agree 100%, and that's a really well said, inspiring speech as well. Just go, if you are called, you do need the courage to pursue that and go for it, because that's sort of the opportunity from God asking you, do you really want this thing? Because here it is. You're gonna have to leap. You're gonna have to take a leap of faith if you actually want it. And I've let some of those opportunities go, and I've chased some, and I've always been extremely grateful when I've had the courage to go after the ones, because every time it's this level up in my quality of life. And that's really what we're all after ultimately, is just better quality of life.
Totally.
You mentioned your retreat a couple of times. I would love to hear a little more about that. And just an aside, I recently made a podcast episode with Zachary Zabat, and his girlfriend Maura was here at your retreat. And I asked him, how did you change your life? He was sick. He was addicted to video games. He was depressed for a long time. And 6 months ago, he was able to change everything. And I asked him, how'd you do that? A lot of people are stuck. And he said, my girlfriend Maura came back from this retreat here in Nosara. It's called Surf and Shanti. And she was glowing. And she looked at me and she said, you're a corpse right now.
Oh my God. I have full body chills. You're a corpse.
I don't know if it was those exact words. Don't hold me to that. But then he felt...
We love you, Zach and Maura.
They're both amazing. And so that inspired him to change. He decided to be better for her. He loves her very much, and began this path of becoming a better man and following holistic health habits and breaking free from addiction. So I wanted to share that story with you, and also for listeners to learn more about what you are cultivating with this retreat.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. First of all, that is the most beautiful thing, and watching these girls transform their lives post-retreat is that's the whole point. That's why I started this business. My retreat business is called Surf and Shanti. As you can imagine, surf is surfing, and the girls come and they learn how to surf, or they go surf the green waves if they are seasoned surfers. And Shanti is actually the Sanskrit word for peace. So that embodies the yoga aspect of the retreat, the meditation, the breath that we do every day, and as well as sisterhood activities. And I keep it playful and lighthearted, because I am such a firm believer, after living in places with dense spiritual communities, with people who take themselves way too seriously, that the most spiritual thing we can do is play and have fun. Like, that is why, because if you take the ego aside, like, sure, you're Casey and you're a man, and I'm Leah and I'm a woman, but we're the same. Like, we are. And you were put into Casey and I was put into Leah to experience that God consciousness through flesh. That is part of what I believe. And with that, I like to keep my retreats. They're not ayahuasca retreats. They're not necessarily super Ayurvedic, even though I love Ayurveda. And I do weave that into my retreats a lot. But they're surf and yoga retreats, and they're to bring women together in the 3D world, because there's so much connection that we do with one another online and through social media, and we see everybody else's lives. But when we come together as women and we sit in circle, we are reminded and remembered of something ancient within us, because women have always gathered. I mean, people have always gathered, but women especially, like, witches were burned at the stake together, and they were burned at the stake because we are powerful when we come together in numbers, seriously. And when we are all together, face to face, flesh to flesh, it's like this wall that gets put up in society, walking through a busy city, or like Instagram to Instagram, following to following. Like, it drops. The wall dissolves, and we are just like, it's pure love. And it is the most beautiful thing to me. And I love to get the girls surfing and out in nature and on the boat and in the jungle, because nature is God, and that's what makes people feel alive and they remember. And yeah, this business I started purely out of love, and it will always continue to be love. I've had a lot of people who are businessy ask me like, "Hey Leah, don't you want to scale your retreat business and host like a couple every month, and then you don't have to be there?" And I said, "No. I actually know. I want to be at every single one. That's why I started this business, to be a part of it and to meet these girls and to make new sisters and hold the space for and create the space really for everyone to just come together." And that is what Surf and Shanti is. It is a passion project that is now blossomed into my income, and something that I do pour a lot of energy into, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's my manifestation come true.
It's powerful. Super powerful. I always like to think about how men have more physical powers, and it's obvious looking at the difference between men and women, and I perceive women as having more metaphysical powers. That could be anything from manifestation to clairvoyance to telepathy, who knows. A lot of what women have within them has been attacked by culture a lot more than men. Both genders have been attacked pretty significantly over the past 100 years or so, let's just say, but we could run through dozens of examples of how women specifically have been attacked through chemical means, through hormonal means, through culture, and bringing women back together in a place of health and nature and secluding. It's only women, and you're able to connect and cultivate that energy is really nourishing, and the world does need more of that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful space, and I'm so grateful for that that God consciousness that came through and really aligned everything to allow me to hold these retreats. And I was just telling Casey that I found the villa that I host the retreats at and knew I had to book that one because the owner of the villa told me where he was from, and it's where my mom lives currently, really close by, and it's a tiny town, and I just knew right there. And so that was just another sign, and I've had many of those along the path to creating this, and it's always felt right. So here we are now.
It's actually right over there, but the camera's pointed at us. I'll add a shot of it afterwards. But it's a beautiful space, very beautiful space, in a very beautiful part of the world. And there's something that we're touching on there that I think is worth circling back on, just to provide some practical, tactical tips for women listening when it comes to ways in which women are attacked by culture or by everyday household products or by beliefs. What are some that come to mind that you wish more women were aware of?
Yeah. I believe there's a lot of physical components of attack, such as birth control, of course, and glyphosate and Sephora, beauty products and things like that. Oh, Botox, filler, all that jazz. Fake boobs, implants, whatever you want to call it. And I think there are more of that on women, but all of those physical things, entities, are really just also creating a spiritual blockage. Because let's break it down. Birth control, you've already heard, if you guys are listening to this podcast, you know how terrible birth control is. But to run it back, birth control messes with your hormones. I was on birth control for 7 years. I had an IUD when I was so much younger, teens and early 20s. I got off of it And 6 months after I got off of it and my hormones started to regulate and my cycle became normal, I broke up with my boyfriend of 4 years, who I loved. And we had a beautiful, healthy relationship, but I wasn't attracted to him anymore. And if that doesn't tell you everything that you need to know, I don't know what will. There's thousands of studies of women feeling the same way. So the hormone dysregulation, though, from birth control, what does that do? It blocks your everything, your intuition, who you're attracted to, what you find attractive. Like, the scent of men is different, their pheromones, your connection to yourself, to the moon, which then to nature. Wow, it goes on and on and on. Let alone the list of 1,000, hundreds and hundreds, 100,000 side effects of birth control, numbers. Whoa. So there's one example. Second example would be all of the hormone disrupting beauty products and like caking on makeup, and it's changing your appearance physically, but mentally, what does that do? It makes you feel like you're not beautiful enough without that. You're not beautiful in your natural state. Okay, another example, same thing, Botox, filler. There's like 20-year-olds getting lip injections and nose jobs, and it's, as a woman, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and say that I've never looked in the mirror and said, wow, I wish maybe I was born with in a different way, because I think we all go through that at some point. But that voice is not you. Like, that's not me. When you come back to love and you come back to your soul, like, this is just my flesh suit, you know? Like, I'm not gonna squeeze some chemical in my lip to make men in LA think I'm more attractive. And look, there is no judgment. I do not judge anyone who does that. But the same thing, I'll touch back on this in a second, but to wrap that into the theme of what we've been discussing, the Botox and the fillers and the injections and all of that, again, it makes you think you're not beautiful enough without those things. And you see all of the other women getting those things, and then it's mimetic desire. You are miming the other people and you want it just because they want it. And mentally that takes a toll on women. So all of these physical toxins and disruptors that we are experiencing, disruptors of our natural state, are really messing with our emotional, mental health as well, which comes back to the intuition and women being very like divine channels and beings and very intuitive. And men are so intuitive also, but women are, we know, we create life in the womb and are connected with the cycles of the moon, literally, which connects us to water and so on and so forth. So definitely all of the birth control and the pharma and, you know, the toxins sprayed on our food, that's a war on just everyone, not just women. And the beauty standards are definitely playing into our mental health as well.
That's a heavy share, and you just really transmitted a lot of potent information there. The three big major forces that can be detrimental to so many people: birth control, Botox or plastic surgery, literally just like injecting plastic into your body to look better. There are ways to look better without plastic. And the third one, which is the beauty products, often laden with all kinds of gnarly, nasty chemicals. There are natural beauty products, of course.
Yeah.
And I'd like to present a fourth one that was coming to mind as you were talking. Lululemon was recently...
Literally telepathic.
Lululemon was hit with a lawsuit just the other day about, I believe it was due to the forever chemicals in their clothing, the PFAS. The PFAS being PFAS, just one of the many carcinogenic chemicals that are in activewear, so-called activewear, polyester, plastic clothing, which is the primary fabric used in fast fashion, which is also just devastating to the ocean, the land, the air, the water, and everyone who wears it and everyone who's involved in making it. What are your thoughts on polyester?
So, getting real with you guys, before the whole natural fabric movement became popular, all that garbage was already out of my closet. I think it was 2021 and 2022 where I started questioning the polyester nylon because I worked in a lot of clothing boutiques when I was in high school. I've created multiple brands since high school, multiple clothing brands, one of which was swimwear. And I was using recycled plastic bottles in swimwear fabric as my fabric because I thought that was sustainable at the time. And then that brand actually that I started and grew and loved and made an income from after I dropped out of college is what made me question everything. I was like, wait, so they're recycled bottles, so it's sustainable because the fabric's made from recycled bottles, so it's not just like new plastic being made or derived from crude oil, whatever. Well, it is if you really break it down. But why is that sustainable? I was like, why am I preaching to everyone that the recycled plastic bottles are sustainable because we're putting it on our skin? And then I stopped that because I didn't want to make regular mainstream swimwear anymore because I was just adding to the plastic. And while I am a surfer and I do wear those things, because we need them for 1 hour of the day sometimes, I believe there is an alternative that will eventually arise, but for right now. And aside from starting the businesses, that made me realize, whoa, fabric, plastic, toxins. I started teaching yoga in a hot yoga studio in San Diego. And all of these women were coming in their Lululemon sets, and they looked so cute and so beautiful and like a goddess. But as soon as we stepped into that hot room, all I could think about was how those clothes are leaching plastic into their skin. Our pores open up when we sweat, and we absorb. Our skin is our largest organ, by the way. So yes, we absorb everything that touches our skin. And I'm a fashion girl. I love clothes and dressing myself. So the transition to all natural fabrics was a little daunting at first. I started selling things on Depop. I started selling things at my local market where I was blessed to have, and we can pitch a tent and sell our stuff. And I sold all of that garbage, and I started being more conscious about what brands I purchase from. And the Lululemon and the Aloe, which I'm pretty sure Aloe stands for air, land, ocean, and all they're doing is polluting it, by the way. It's wreaking havoc on your hormonal system, and it's disrupting your hormones. And whether you think it's woo-woo or not, like, the skin absorbs what we put onto it, especially when we're sweating. So that is when I really woke up to, wow, I'm going to wear different things in yoga. I don't care if people see my sweat dripping down my butt or my boobs. Like, we sweat. We're humans. We're mammals. And it was a transition at first, but it's highly, highly, it has a high payout to switch your wardrobe to natural fibers.
It does. I've found that I went through this process myself around the same time, early 2020s, as I started learning about it and seeing the studies about how your skin is your largest organ. It consumes what you put on it, and when the plastic polyester clothing gets hot in hot yoga, or if you're working out in the heat, or if it's in a part of your body that gets hot, like under your arms or between your legs at the creases of our limbs, it gets hot in these, like, where our limbs touch, that is going to absorb broken down microplastics and also chemicals that are involved in keeping the polyester fabric together, and it's absorbed into our body, and it's just more toxins that our body has to process. We already have so many around us most of the time, and if we can limit that in any way, it's going to make our body run better because we have less to process, less toxins to process. And the benefit of the natural fiber clothing is how comfy it is. It's so much more comfy.
Totally. And you're aura maxing. Like, the fabrics hold frequencies, so not only is it a health thing, but it's a frequency thing. And there's a doctor named Heidi Yellen who did a study on fabric frequency, a Jewish doctor, and she found that there are certain fabrics, all natural of course, that vibrate and rest at a higher energetic frequency, so a higher hertz, than that of dead fabrics like polyester. So for example, a healthy human resonates at about 100 hertz frequency, and polyester and nylon and spandex are 0. So there are, though, materials of clothing that sit even higher than a healthy human body, and those are organic cotton, hemp, around 500, I believe, and then there are like 5,000, which is linen and wool. So we can enhance and expand our frequency in Aura Max by wearing natural fibers. And to me, at this point in my journey, because it's been so many years, they also just look better. Like, you look better in natural fibers, babe, I promise. Like, the skin tight plastic leggings, they don't do it for me anymore, I will say.
I get way more compliments when I'm there wearing natural fiber fabrics, and people, it's not even from people who understand. There's like, oh, that's a nice
Yeah.
sweater, those are nice pants. And I'm thinking in my head, well, I know that this is like made with organic cotton, but they don't quite digest it or see it in that way. Just know like, oh, there's something nice about that. Meanwhile, what you mentioned there, the frequency, in terms of things being woo-woo, that definitely sounds a little woo-woo, but it's it's science-driven. That's the rate
It's
at which
scientific.
the molecules oscillate. So living fibers and fabrics like linen, hemp, wool, that's oscillating at a higher frequency, measurable. These things have all been measured, and that is what frequency is. It's not woo-woo at all. And the toxic, carcinogenic problems caused by polyester is also measured in research studies. This is all well documented, and it's sort of our role as aware participants in this game called life to spread the word about it so that we can all sort of shift away from something that has proven to be quite a terrible mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that always helps me to dissect if something is good for me or not, instead of listening to an influencer on Instagram and having, a mind and being able to free think and think for yourself. I believe in this day and age that is so necessary. Think and experiment for yourself before just trusting someone blindly. Unless you do trust them, then of course that's what we're all here for, to like educate one another and share our gifts and our knowledge, right? But if you want to dissect something to really think about if it's good for you, then do the research. If you go and you search up where Lululemon is made, how it's made, who is making the clothes, like literally all clothing has to be made somewhere in a factory to some capacity, even though there are a lot of advancements in that technology these days that I know about because I am currently and have been creating a clothing brand myself. However, there is no consumer interest in mind other than money when it comes to Lululemon, or when it comes to big brands that buy out small brands in the grocery store, like the small holistic clean ingredient brands like Siete, for example, that gets bought out. And whoever buys them out isn't going to care like the people who own Siete did. And hey, I understand, like, they just set up generational wealth and they worked hard to do so. So I would imagine that's a very interesting dance to be in if you're in that position to sell a company. However, dissect it. See who's funding the big projects. See who's making the clothes. See who's making the food, and then you can intuitively decide from there, like, okay, these people probably don't have my best interest in mind, or like, oh, actually these people seem good and like they're ethical and they care about what they do and there's heart and real humans behind that, so I'm going to support it.
Excellent advice, and that principle will guide folks in the right direction when it comes to making a purchasing decision or what to own or wear or eat. You mentioned the clothing brand that you're building. Tell me more about Aura.
Yeah, so Aura by Leah is the name of my clothing brand. And it is called Aura because of everything we were just talking about, because you are quite literally changing and enhancing your aura when you are wearing natural fibers. And like I said, I am a yoga teacher, I am a yoga practitioner. I love it. It's been a huge part of my life and my journey up until this moment, and it will continue to be. And I wanted to give women an alternative to all of this plastic while still making it really cute. There are some cute natural fiber clothing brands out there on the market, and they really are. There are a few. that are truly natural fibers and truly amazing and done by amazing women. And it's so much better to support them over the big brands that we just discussed that are made out of plastic derived from crude oil. But I am creating Aura to give women a really swaggy, like cute, feminine, like you feel really good in this piece of clothing that will last you so long, that's ethically made, that, you know, I design and choose every design aspect of the garment from a practitioner and a teacher of yoga standpoint. So it's really intentionally made, and really my goal and my intention with Aura is to make you feel good and vital and vibrant and healthy and full of, like, you're wearing your essence, you're wearing your aura on your skin. And I just want women to feel the way that I feel when I am aligned and feel confident in my clothes, that they're not only making me look and feel beautiful, but that they are supporting my health as well.
Really looking forward to that launching. That's going to be massive, and it's going to help a ton of women who are seeking non-plastic options to move around in. You showed me a sample before we started recording. Feels really good, soft, and also stretchy. And from what I saw, I believe that was made of organic cotton primarily.
Yeah, so it's 96% organic cotton. That is the fabric blend that I'm using right now. It does have 4% of lycra. That part doesn't touch your skin. It is necessary to have some stretch in the garment and to hug a woman's curvature. Otherwise, it would be just like a t-shirt, and it would be loose and baggy, which I do plan to make also in the future with 100% organic cotton. But that is the composition for now, and it is butter soft. It hugs the body really delicately and deliciously, and I'm really, really stoked to get it in your guys' hands and on your bodies.
A little bit of spandex or lycra is sort of essential on some things.
Yeah.
Before socks had a little bit of lycra or spandex, they were held up with like suspenders.
True. That's a vibe also.
Yeah. So I think a little bit of synthetic fiber helps more than it hurts ultimately.
Absolutely.
No reason to be looking for 100%, doing yoga in a baggy t-shirt is actually not the best experience.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of when Aura will launch and be available?
Yeah, so as of right now, Aura is scheduled to launch this summer, midsummer. I am really feeling July. So we'll launch our first pieces in July. They will be available for pre-order a few weeks prior to that. So it will be a limited pre-order. So if you are looking forward to that, then definitely follow Aura by Leah for all the updates on when the launch is going to be and when you can pre-order the pieces. There are only 400 pieces being made for this round of production.
400 pieces. So if you want to get your hands on one, I'll have a link down below to Aura by Leah and everything else that we mentioned, Surf and Shanti, and Leah's social media channels, so that you can connect that way. And Leah, I'm really excited about this new venture that you're launching and the continuation of the retreats that you're hosting, the stories that you've shared, and from what I've heard from other people, I know it's incredibly powerful, and I respect the work that you're doing here and the lifestyle that you're sharing and what you're continuing to manifest. And I'm grateful to have co-created this episode with you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Casey. It's always such a pleasure, and so beautiful that this second time around we were in the flesh together.
Absolutely.
Co-creating. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Like, there were just points in that where I was like watching like your grown self of the shovel, and I like really was trying hard not to like laugh. It's so good, like the little yellow shovel. They're gonna be like, did this dude buy that?